Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Furious 7, directed by James Wan from 2015. So yes, we are back once again, discussing from the channel. This time around, we're here for another Fast and Furious film, Furious 7, and this is a huge film for the franchise, and I have quite a few things to say about this one today. But first of all, there will be a spoiler warning for this discussion. If everyone sees this film, I simply recommend seeing it first, and then come back to this video, and we can go from there. We can talk about some of the comments, and celebrate cinemas. Yes, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film, and what a film this one is, and it's the one that I had really high hopes for. I've been hearing about this, of course, more than a lot of them, over the years, and it's the one that is very, very popular among the kind of fan base, and it's the one that I was so pumped for. After seeing 6, which I really, really enjoyed, so much, and obviously Fast 5, that's the one that I absolutely love. It just blew me away in every way, throughout the film, really, and I think just seeing this one, it's the one that I think is definitely as well one of the high points of the franchise, and just the kind of spree, as I've said recently, of all these kind of fast films, from Fast 5, through quite a bit, the franchise, it was something else, and a real high point for the franchise, just the way the action was done, I think, and the character interactions, and just the style, the tone of this, they got it so right with Fast 5, and carried it through, obviously. The transition as well, to kind of, more heist films, spy-type films, this one especially is a bit more spy-heavy, in that sense, and, the plot is very full on, in the kind of spy department in that sense, but I think, it is still really wacky, and, definitely, kind of fast film in its tone, and, I think as well, this one obviously, done the best at the box office, 1.5 billion at the box office, and, it's insane stuff, and, it's the highest grossing one, obviously, and, one of the highest grossing films of all time, and it's the one that just finally seeing this, I was blown away in many ways, with this film. And yes, it's just so much fun, this film, and from start to finish, really, such a thrill ride of a film, globe-trotting, you've got, so many different moments of wacky action in the film, especially involving, the plane and all the cars falling out there, diving out, and, Roman Pierce, in this film, it's just so much fun, and hilarious, obviously, as always. And, everything involving Dom and Brian and Mia in this film, once again, is so great, and, I love these scenes in particular, and these kind of interactions, relationships throughout the film, and everything involving Paul Walker in this film, is just stunning. And obviously, we do have the very, very sad, kind of passing of Paul Walker during the filming of this originally, and obviously that was halted the production, and it's delayed for quite a bit, and they did return, obviously, and finish the film. So what we have, obviously, as we know, is kind of Paul Walker, throughout a lot of the film, and then we do have kind of the CGI used, his brothers and all this for stand-ins to kind of finish the film, with his character. So we have that, and it just does have such an emotional impact, this film in that sense as well. And I just think the way though that they kind of use the CGI and everything like that, it's just so great that they could kind of finish the film, and kind of pay tribute as well in the end, to Paul Walker, of course, and the character of Brian, and just seeing that kind of montage, tribute in the end with the music, of course, and seeing from all the Fast films before this, obviously beginning with Fast 1, the Fast and the Furious, that was just so great, and just when that came on, I was just tears in my eyes, and it was just so moving, that piece, and just all the dialogue before that as well, the beach scene, it was just so stunning. It really was masterful, that kind of sequence of the film, I think, and just seeing Vin Diesel, his reaction, the kind of push in there, just all of the characters' reactions there, it's just so heartfelt, and then kind of just that line, "It's never goodbye." That was so moving, that, and just the way in which the two characters as well, in that kind of ending kind of shot there with the two of them between them, kind of they veer off different roads, of course, driving off there, and I think that's just so stunning, and obviously, for Paul, that was just such a kind of beautiful moment. That the whole kind of sequence there was wonderful, and just seeing Paul Walker throughout the entire franchise, and just as a kind of tribute to him, it was so emotional at this point in the film, and I think just the entire film, it kind of does strike the kind of balance between light-hearted fun and really engaging kind of narrative here with these characters, and emotional moments, spiritual moments in the film, and I think it's just such a stunning film, this, and we have obviously as well the plot in that sense, the kind of the plot of God's Eye. I think I do really enjoy this. There's some parts where perhaps it's a bit kind of convoluted again, and I think it's partly because we have quite a lot of characters involved in this kind of God's Eye kind of plot, and we have obviously as well Nathalie and Emmanuel coming into the film. She joins here, as of course as Rousey, and I did love this character, and I think just seeing her in some of the films after this as well, it's just so great that she's kind of this new member of the team, and she was so good in this film. And I love the interactions between her and, of course, Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris as well in these films. It's so fun and just really engaging. And I think, seeing Rousey, she's the creator of God's Eye, of course, and she's obviously kind of innocent though, in the sense that she does join our team. But you've also got Mr. Nobody in the mix as well, played by Kurt Russell, who I do really, really love in this film. He's a great addition to the franchise here, and I think just in this film, he's so enjoyable, and his interactions between the group, that's just so great. Kurt Russell's great in the film. But obviously, you've got Mr. Nobody, and he's the one that kind of gets the team together to kind of stop, this kind of villain plot, and we have to try and, stop people from getting, control of God's Eye, which is obviously an advanced hacking program, but, it's just the way it's done in the film at times is a bit, kind of convoluted here and there. That's just a slight thing, of the film, the plot, but I think other than that, I did really enjoy this narrative, from the start to finish. I think just the way that things, happen in the film for the characters, kind of accidents and things going wrong, especially with Roman Pierce. This was so funny, and obviously as well, we do have in this film kind of first proper role really with Jason Statham in the Fast and Furious franchise, of course, as Deckard Shaw, and he is just so great in this film, and obviously trying to avenge his brother as well, Owen Shaw, and this is something that he does try to kind of take down the team, obviously, and he's kind of a villain in the film, and I think it's so interesting as well seeing him interact with different characters throughout the film, and that fight as well at the beginning with him, and of course Luke Hobbs in the film, Jason Statham and The Rock in this film fighting it out. That was just so great, and the way that James Wan directed this film throughout, but especially the action in this film is just so great, and that kind of hand to hand fist fight there, and that was just so great, the way the camera angles are done, and just the way that was edited. It was something else, and it was just so over the top, and so visceral though as well, and it's just something I really love in this film is the over the top action, and it's still really felt though, it's not too far in that sense, and it's just such a blast, this film. It's so epic, and I think the best live action in the film for me is, and so many ones to choose from, but I think definitely when they all kind of drive out of the plane with the cars, of course, and that kind of dive there, and we have obviously Roman Pierce at first not wanted to do this, and they have to kind of force him out of the plane, and it's just so great, and it does kind of lead when they go down with all the parachutes and everything to just that what an epic kind of chase in that sense, what it leads to with all the cars there going through. You've got of course once again Deckard Shaw there, just the way in which he's kind of on their case, and all these different characters together, and just the sustained tension there, and just how much fun that is. That was definitely overall my favourite, including the plane kind of dive there. Definitely my favourite kind of action set piece, in the film, and I think really my favourite kind of act of the film in a sense. But I think the final act as well is just non-stop kind of chaotic action here. The whole film though, the way it kind of moves and flows, I think it's something else. And as I say, James Wan's direction here, is definitely something else. And I think just seeing the characters interact again in this one, it's really quite unique in a sense. And there is obviously, as I've said, the emotional kind of undercurrent to this film. But I think just seeing different characters as well come into it, like obviously Rousey, in this film, it does add something to the film. And I think this actual team, the way it kind of it's getting a bit smaller, but then it's kind of changing up as well, so it's quite interesting how we have that, and different new characters coming into this, of course, and I think just seeing once again though, kind of Tyrese Gibson in this film, just his quips, his one-liners in this, and just all of his reactions, really, it's just priceless. And I think Letty in this film as well, she is really good. Once again, I think definitely a step up from, I had some issues with the Sick film with Letty and what they were doing with her character. It just wasn't really handled that well. It's a bit frustrating, really, in that sense. But I think Michelle Rodriguez, as always, is great in this film, and it's great to see her and Vin Diesel once again, and obviously Jordana Brewster in this film as Mia. That was great to see, and just all these characters returning and different new characters as well joining the film. I think just, as I say, the balance between that light-hearted, kind of over-the-top, insane kind of epic action comedy, in the film, and also the emotional side of things, and I think just the serious nature of different parts of the film, really investing at times, and I think just as an action film though, and the globe-trotting effect it has, the locations, and just in the middle of the film, as well, that was just so great. We see all the kind of wacky moments there as well. We have the kind of the cars literally driving between buildings, smashing through the glass there. That was just wow, it's something else. And I've seen little, bits of the film, those parts of the film before, and I was aware of what kind of the general idea of this, but seeing it, properly this time around in full, that was something else. And I was blown away by the whole kind of sequence where they're just, driving through different buildings there, smashing through, and it's kind of these skyscrapers. It's just next level stuff, and it's just, it really is something else, this kind of part of the film. And I think then the final act, we have as well, finally though, The Rock, obviously Dwayne Johnson, Luke Hobbs coming out of the hospital there, and he kind of just, that was a hilarious part. Obviously he's out of action, that's one of the things. Throughout the film, he's in hospital, of course, from what happened with Deckard Shaw, the bomb, obviously, and then, he does in the final act kind of step up, and he kind of he rips his, cast off and all this kind of stuff, like a superhero, and just kind of breaks out, and then he's holding, this massive turret, a minigun, of course, going through the streets and taking down his helicopters and all this. It's just something else how, The Rock is just unstoppable once again in this film, and it's just taken to the next level, though, and, I think it's just so many hilarious moments with The Rock, and seeing his daughter as well, that was really nice, kind of nice family scenes, but then, the final bit where he's kind of in the action, that's something else, and just going through the streets and all this, and saving the team, and just all of them together in that final act, that was something else. And I think as well, God's Eye, the way that kind of culminates in this film with the kind of the plot there, I thought that was really well done. And I think I wasn't huge on the villain in this film, Jakande, and it's just seeing him in the final acts is quite a bit more kind of prominent in this piece of the film. I think he was fine, it wasn't a great villain, but it was fun enough. And I think Djimon Hounsou gave a really good performance. It was just the way the character was kind of written, and he was just more of a mercenary kind of henchman type villain than any kind of real intrigue to him, and I think it was quite bland, just as a character. But it didn't really affect the film too much. Just he was a bit more in the final acts, and it's just it wasn't huge on the villain, but it didn't really affect, as I say, the film. And it's just something a slight to the film as well there. But I think outside of the plots in places, and just some of the way the villains are done, and the kind of the hacking plot really, outside of those aspects, I think the film is just great, and I do love this film, and overall it's definitely one of the best. One of the real high points of the franchise, and it's just such a kind of a jolly blockbuster, but it is also emotional places, and we have just kind of the spiritual aspect of the film, and the way in which the film ends as well. That kind of, as I've said, final kind of sequence there, of the kind of tribute to Paul Walker. It's just something else, really stunning part of the film, and it's just such a fun ride as well, though, and all these characters kind of teaming up, and different new characters as well coming into it, and this kind of over-the-top plot, which in places is enjoyable. Wasn't huge on the kind of God's Eye, kind of part of the film, but it was done well in places, and it doesn't really affect the film because the action, the set pieces, the globetrotting effect it has, the style to the film. James Wan just directed this so well, and all the kind of locations, and just the style with all the costumes and characters' outfits and all this, and just the way the action plays, the fist fights and all this, the way it's edited, and just the whole kind of feel of this, the tone, the charm of this is just something else, and it's just a blockbuster, and it's jolly, it's emotional, and it's just full of heart, this one, and I really do love this film, and it's just such a great entry to the franchise, and I think just that final kind of sequence, as I say, that it's just something else. It brought me to tears, and I think just a way to end the film perfectly, and I think just to tribute Paul Walker, and to see him of course over the rest of the films up to this, it was just something else, and just a real kind of emotional moment there, as I say. And this film overall is just such a great film, and I think James Wan directing this, you see all the performances as well, it's so great, and heartfelt in places, and just it's so much fun. It's hilarious in places. I think Tyrese Gibson once again is a standout, in the comedy department there, and I think just seeing as well, Luke Hobbs in this film and stuff involving him, and it was so much fun, this, and such a fun kind of thrill ride, and also it's just really emotional in places as well, and just so investing. And I think while the plot is in places a bit kind of convoluted with the kind of God's Eye kind of element of this, and it's not the most interesting places in that sense. I think what we've got going on with Deckard Shaw, that element of the plot, and where kind of he's trying to get revenge, avenge his brother, of course, for what's happened previously. I think that was so investing, and different parts in this story as well that are just so something to really get behind, and also just the characters in that sense, the way they drive the plot really more than anything in this one. And I think the narrative in that sense, even though we've got elements of the plot, where it's not that interesting, it's a bit convoluted, I can't really fully, understand all of this, I think it doesn't really affect the overall narrative in that sense and what's going on, even just, with the plot, as an overall piece, it's just some aspects of it that are a bit frayed, a bit kind of, not as investing, but overall, that narrative is super investing, and obviously, due to the characters as well, and the characters that I love and know up to this point, and new characters as well come into it, and so, I think, and the backstory to them, so it was really interesting, overall. I just think some aspects of, the God's Eye, kind of element, I think that could have been, a bit better, but for me, that's some of my only kind of flaws of the film, and, I think overall, this is just such a stunning film, what a great kind of jolly kind of feel-good blockbuster, full of heart and also emotional moments as well. And I think this one is just something else, and definitely one of the very, very best films in the franchise. And so everyone, rating for this film is a 91%, so an extremely high score from me. And this one is just so much fun. This film, it's just epic stuff, and it's jolly blockbuster as well, and I think just so feel good. This one, full of kind of these wacky, bombastic moments, and I think the flow of it, the way it's directed, and just the comedy as well as these emotional moments in the film, and just the action in this film is next level, and I think the comedy within the action as well. One of my favourite moments, of course, being that plane kind of set piece leading into the car chase there, and all the characters' involvement there, especially as well. Rowan Pierce, I think Tyrese Gibson in this film is just laugh out loud once again, and I think especially at the moment when, of course, Tej kind of forces him out of the plane when he's not wanted to go at first, and then he's shouting at Tej saying "I hate you," and just falling there, and it's just so funny. The screams from Rowan Pierce there, it's just absolutely classic stuff, and I think just when he kind of lands as well, and just the involvement of all the characters though in that, and just the way it kind of culminates with Brian running up the coach as it kind of falls, tips off the edge of the cliff there, and it's kind of falling, and Brian kind of runs up this, of course, running up the coach and up the side of it, and in slow motion, and then kind of jumps, and Letty whizzing round and saves him just in the nick of time there, and we've got him hanging on, of course, there, and just the slow motion there, and then kind of speeding round and him kind of being let off, at the end there, that was just so great, and just lying out, on the kind of gravel there, that was just something else, lying out on the road there. And it was just such a great epic moment, and full of tension, this film, full of kind of wacky moments, and I think just that balance between the over-the-top action, real insane kind of, crazy moments, but it is, the fact that it's balanced out with this kind of realism, this grit to the film as well. Just the characters and how kind of charming they are, the kind of banter between all the characters once again, the warmth, the kind of humanity, and just all of the performances in this film across the board, just so great. And I think seeing Paul Walker in this film as well, though, he was just so great in this film, just stunning performance, and the tribute, as I say, at the end was so heartfelt and so emotional and just spiritual that it just brought me to tears, and what a way to end the film. And this one is definitely one of the highlights, to say, and I had such a great kind of time watching this one and going through all of these films to this point, but this was one of the special ones, and it really was such a kind of thrill-riding experience from start to finish, just seeing the way the film opens up and the way it ends as well, something else, and such a perfect way to kind of wrap up the film and to pay tribute as well to Paul Walker. And so that's my thoughts. What do you think on this film? Get some comments, your thoughts on this film, and how's it compare for you to different Fast and Furious films in the franchise? That'd be great to discuss down below in the comments. Next up will be The Fate of the Furious. This is one that I have so much great things to say about as well, and really positive things to say about that one, and I really look forward to reviewing that as well within the next week or two. Again, quite quickly going through these films on the channel now, and next up to watch for me will be F9. That'll be tomorrow that I'll be watching that film, and that'll be really cool to do that. And shortly after that as well, the week after really, I'll be watching Fast X, and that'll be for now, really wrapping up with the reviews of the Fast and Furious films. But still a few to go, and obviously Hobbs and Shaw as well, and The Fate of the Furious to talk about before those films. So really look forward to doing all this on the channel, and to watching the last few films as well in the franchise. Really pumped up, super hyped for this. But for now, let's discuss this film down below in the comments and celebrate cinema. So as always, take care and thanks for watching.